people jump on in later, great, they can tune on in.
You don't have to pussyfoot around. Don't make it more, you don't have to go the full hour either. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to like skip some parts. So what I'm going to
Yeah.
do is I'm actually going to share my screen. I put together this lovely little laptop, or I mean, PowerPoint for you, but, whoops, hang on a second.
She's
I
got a
got
new computer, so she's messing around with.
I did, and it's like, now I forgot to, oh no, here we go.
Just remember, it's recorded. Just don't swear.
I know. Oh no, hang on. I don't know if this is gonna work. Hold on one second. We might have to wait. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So I'm gonna just do slideshow. Oops. It's like when you do something for the first time on your new computer, then you're like, have to like give it the okay to do everything. So I'm hoping that it's recording, but okay. So talking about new construction, obviously we're still in very low inventory in a lot of parts of the country and whatnot. So this is just an opportunity for you to just tap into a different market, right? Looking at talking to builders, connecting with builders, and selling new construction just versus resale homes. So I have been, whoops, it's not going to let me do that. Okay, there we go. So the role of a real estate agent with new construction, I mean, we've got a lot of ways that we play a very vital role in new construction. So first off is just educating our clients about the benefits and the challenges of building or looking at new construction. And one of the big things right now, just with, how competitive the market can be, you don't have to compete against other buyers. We have buyers that are losing out on properties or having to bid 50,000 over or whatever, 100,000 over to get the home. Well, with new construction, you're not competing, with anybody. You get to meet with the builder, pick your location, or look at one of their spec homes, that's maybe half built, and you can still get in there and make selections potentially. But you just don't have to deal with that competitive type of a environment. Also, then you get what you want, right? If you build from the ground up, you're able to pick the things that you want to put in your home versus a resale home where you might have to do some remodeling or some changing after you buy it. Some of the challenges might be that there's a little bit less room for negotiation. So, with a resale, I might have lived in my house for 20 years and there's a lot of equity in place and I have a little bit more give on offers that come in. Well, with new construction, not that there isn't some profit built in for the builder. Obviously, they're not doing this for free, but, their hard costs are the cost of their products, today as they're building. So there's probably a little bit less room for negotiation, when you're bringing a buyer to the table for new construction. Also for buyers, they need to know that it could be difficult to stay on budget, right? Unless you're pretty disciplined. So if you're walking in and you're meeting with a builder and that house is going to be 700,000 for you to build it, through the build process, maybe you decide to add this or add that. And next thing you know, you could be $10,000, $20,000 over your budget. So, just making sure that you're educating your clients on that. And as we have seen after COVID, market conditions can drive the cost of products. Right now we have in our area, I don't know about other areas, but we have some, workforce shortage issues. So we've got a lot of contractors that, they're set to come on site to do their portion of the build. Well, they get pushed off because either they don't have the manpower, they got called back to a different job. So now they push off that, their time frame to come to your house or your buyer's house, which can then, change the timeline or change the product costs. Okay. Positioning yourself as a trusted advisor throughout the process. That's one of our roles, right? Is we want to be present at the meetings with our clients and the builder. We want to be the first one to make the call to the builder if you've got a client interested. That way you're involved from the beginning. You're going to be guaranteed that you're going to get your commission at the end, but it's also your way of making sure that you're protecting your client through the process. A lot of people, don't think about this, but that buyer goes straight to the builder. The builder's looking out for the builder, right? I mean, not saying that they're out to hose your client, but they're looking out for them. So your client needs to have somebody looking out for them in the process. So that is definitely a key role here. Oops, sorry. Okay. Also, the collaboration between agents, clients, and builders. The importance of open communication and teamwork is paramount. We want to make sure that through the process, everybody's on the same page. If we're all on the same page as we go through the whole build process, we're going to get to the closing, and the clients are going to be super happy. They're going to obviously give you more referrals down the road, but there's a lot of room, a lot of moving parts in the build process. So you need to make sure that you're staying tapped in, and we'll talk about more, ways to do that later here. And then just building strong relationships with builders and other industry professionals. So contractors, electricians, things like that through the process. That's going to lead to future referrals. So I have worked in the industry. Like when I first started in real estate, I worked for the 3rd largest home builder in Minnesota. And I mean, that's a massive group of contractors and vendors and whatnot. So make sure that you're tapping in and getting to know those people, and really, asking for the business and asking to help out in any way that you can, maybe at showcase, fall showcase, spring showcase, things like that, home shows. Certainly that's what you're doing this for, is to build your business. Okay. So to prepare yourself for success with whoops. Sorry, guys. I got a lot of stuff going on here with my computer. Okay. So guiding your clients and defining their vision and preferences. You still, just like when you're meeting a buyer to go find a resale home, you still need to do a thorough needs analysis and a lifestyle analysis. What do they need now and what can be added later? Construction costs are probably at the highest they've ever been since I've been in real estate. So, letting your buyer know that the important thing right now is getting the space. If they're going to build, it's so much easier to build your size right now. You can always add the fancy stuff later. Put your budget into your space. And maybe downgrade on the amenities. You don't need maybe the quartz. We can put in a lower end countertop, or we can put in something, a little bit less, because you can always add that later, but you can't add on to the home as far as size without a lot of expense later. Okay. And then assisting with selecting suitable neighborhoods and communities. So when you're doing this needs analysis with your buyers, finding out what they want, what's the type of house and the size and the needs within the home, we also need to be talking about what is a suitable neighborhood for you guys. Where do you want to be? Is there a school district you want to be in? Where are the lots available in those areas or communities that they want to live in? And is there potential even like rural acreage that might fit for them as well? Okay. So there's lots of realtors or real estate agents that work with builders, that work on communities, at least in our area. Might be different, maybe Joe out by you or whatever, but get to know those real estate agents, because your buyers may be looking at areas that you don't necessarily work. So you need to know who are the good new construction agents that have the information and the connections in the areas that maybe your buyers want to be in. Okay, so then your job is also to help them select reputable builders and understand, the offerings. So researching builders' track records, their portfolios, and their reviews. What we have found, and unfortunately we learned the hard way, you think we've been in this business a long time, we would have learned, what is most important to me is, not only do they build a good quality home and you're able to go look at models or spec homes and ask the builders for recommendations or referrals of people that they've built for. One of the biggest questions I will tell you guys to always ask is that you want to ask anybody when you're getting a review is, what did the builder do after we closed and we moved in? How did they handle any problems that came up? Any warranty work that needed to be done? You know, how did they address that? Because I will tell you, a builder can build a great house, but when your buyer moves in, if there's a problem and they don't return calls and they don't come back to fix it, and it takes months or years, which we've lived through, that is not going to leave your client happy and wanting to refer you. Unfortunately, you're not even the builder, but that leaves a bad taste in their mouth because you were part of that whole transaction, right? So really do a good job of looking at builders who build in the price point your buyer wants to build in, getting your buyer out to look at some of their models. If they don't have available models, which is sometimes very common, ask them, were there any recent builds that they did that they closed on that the owners would allow us to come through and look at the home, so that you're really seeing the quality of construction. Okay. You want to evaluate the builder's warranties, their design flexibility and customization options. So what I mean by that is, you know, depending on the price point, there are national builders that build all over that. You know, they'll say, here are your 6 choices for cabinets. Here are your 6 choices for countertops. Here are your 6 choices for flooring. And they've got it down to kind of a science where your buyer may have some options to choose from, but not a whole lot, right? And then there's going to be the full custom home builder that allows your buyer to choose like pretty much everything. And it's very customized. So, you know, knowing your client's budget and the type of builder that they're looking at will help you understand, you know, what type of builder that is and how much flexibility your client's going to have. Do they also have specific vendors that you're required to use? So most of the time, a builder will have relationships that they have with their contractors, right? Their electrician, their carpenters, their flooring people, their plumbers. So if you're somebody that, hey, my uncle's a plumber, or, you know, I have a really good relationship with this flooring store or whatever, can I go there? Those are questions that you're going to want to ask that builder. You know, how much flexibility do I have with choosing my own vendors, or do I have to use yours? Another question I get a lot is, hey, will they allow me to do some of the work? Like I love to paint. I'm happy painting my own house. Or, hey, I am a carpenter. I want to do my own, you know, framing. Like, is that possible? Right. I would say that doesn't happen as much anymore. Years and years and years ago, they used to let people do that. But now there's probably very few builders that will allow you to do that through the actual process, you know, and for reasons of warranties, right? Those builders, when they build your home, they've got to warrant the work that's done. Well, if the homeowner comes in and does some work themselves, you know, the builder's on the hook for warranting that. And so a lot of them won't allow that. But it is certainly a question you can ask the builder, you know, if your buyer is someone who wants to do that. Okay. It saves them some money, but again, might not be conducive to what the builder wants.
Hey, Cal, real quick, what does that apply? So we had a situation where we own a housing development and we had a potential buyer come in and say, you know what, I just want your builder to build the foundation. I want to bring in one of those modular houses and have it just constructed on the foundation. Do you know how that works with that?
Well, more than likely, and I don't know because we didn't get that to come to fruition yet, but more than likely, then that builder who put the foundation in would warrant the foundation. If you're bringing in a separate company who does the modular home, they probably have warranties in place for their product. So you would probably just want to get things in writing, right? That, hey, this builder who put the foundation in is only warranting the foundation. And make sure that your client is aware of any warranties for that manufactured home company. Okay. Setting realistic expectations for timelines and budgets. Okay. So this is where I really feel, you know, other than doing the research on the builders and helping your client know what to look for and what not to look for with the builder and their quality, I really think this is where we, you know, we need to do a good job, is just really setting realistic expectations for our buyers. If they've never built before, this is a strange animal, right? They don't know what to expect. All they know is, hey, I'm going to get this great, beautiful, shiny, beautiful home at the end, right? Well, there's a long process that they go through before they get the beautiful home at the end. And just having realistic expectations, again, is going to make them much happier in the end, because they won't have any of those big surprises, right? So explaining the typical construction timelines and potential delays currently in our market, and I don't know, Joe, like where you are, for a custom home, a decent custom home where the builder or where the buyer is able to choose a lot of stuff, we're looking at about 8 to 10 months now for a custom home on average. Now, depending on the size, it could certainly be longer than that. It could be 10 to 12 months. Whereas pre-COVID, we were 4 to 6 months. I mean, we could put up a pretty decent custom home. So COVID brought in product delays. I think we're still seeing some of that. Maybe some windows and things like that are on a little bit of a delay. They're not as bad as they used to be. But, we're telling people around that 8-month mark, could be potentially 10 months. And I think it's not so much product delays anymore. I think a lot of it is workforce shortage. So these guys can't get in as quickly as they used to, and have 2 or 3 crews to go to different houses. They're moving one crew from project to project to project. So it's just slowing down the whole, wheel here. Discussing budget considerations, including any contingencies and upgrades. So again, this is where you need to be having the conversation with your buyers about, hey, when a builder is going to build a home, they're going to give you an allowance for certain things. So we'll use appliances as an example. They're going to build in an allowance for you to go purchase your appliances. If you go over, now that's added to the price of the home. So if you thought you were at a $600,000 budget and you go over $20,000 because you need top of the line Wolf appliances, right? Now your house is $620,000, right? It's not that you just get to go pick any appliances. You're going to have a certain budget, and you need to be aware of the fact that going over adds up, right? You go over a little here, a little here, a little here. Next thing you know, you could be over budget by 10 grand or 15 grand. So if your clients, if one of their priorities is to stick tight on that budget, you need to be, with them and reminding them of staying on those allowances that the builder has built into the product, right? The other thing that's super easy to do, and it's hard, is the buyer will be, you know what, can we just add a couple more outlets in this room, or can we add a few more, recessed lights? And those things, again, add up. It seems super easy. I'm just going to tell the builder to add them. Well, they're keeping track of all of that, right? And next thing you know, you could be $3,000 or $5,000 over budget because you've added all these extras. So just, make sure that they're aware of that, and point out some of the typical areas where you will potentially go over. Appliances is definitely one of them. Flooring and light fixtures could be, one of them as well. Okay. And just make sure that all parties are on the same page. So I like to, a lot of times, just have those conversations up front with the builder and the client at the same time, because the builder then can have the opportunity to build in more realistic allowances. So for instance, I had a client and she knew she was going to build out a gourmet kitchen, and the builder's, $7,000 or $8,000 appliance allowance was not even going to cut it, because I think her stove was that much alone. So just having those conversations and saying what's important to you, so that builder can build in the right allowances, more realistic allowances, so that there aren't so many overages in the end. Okay. So coordinating communication between all parties. So, facilitating regular meetings with your client and the builder. Again, you're the buyer's representative. You're there to protect them and to ask questions, so that the builder isn't just controlling this whole thing and going down his path or her path. You're able to jump in and make sure that your client is getting, you're negotiating on behalf of your client and making sure that they're being represented in those meetings. Plus, it's just really good to have a second set of ears. That buyer, that client is getting a lot of information in these meetings, and they're not potentially retaining or remembering everything. So when I go to those meetings, I'm sitting back, I'm kind of observing the conversation between the builder and the client. I'm taking notes on everything that's being said or agreed upon. And then I'm interjecting with some questions that I feel, oh, the buyer didn't know to ask that question. I'm going to jump in and ask that question. So I think you being there through the whole thing is just, vital. Okay. Plus, I think it ensures really a smooth flow of information, just to prevent any misunderstandings or whatnot. Again, I take notes, and then after the meeting, what I do is I send an email. Hey guys, it was great. Our meeting was great. Here's the things that we discussed. We're all on the same page with these few items, right? That way you've got a paper trail, you're keeping everybody on the same page, and then there's no misunderstandings later. Whoops, did I go backwards? Okay, so now we're into the actual designing of the home that they want, going from talking to the builder, getting it on the blueprint to then building. So exploring the architectural and design process. If you guys are new to new construction or you want to get into new construction, I would definitely say you have to spend some time researching architectural styles, layouts, learning the lingo, doing some research if you are not familiar at all. Okay. And what I mean by like architectural styles, do you know what a bungalow is? Do you know what a Cape Cod is? Do you know the basics of the 2-story, the Rambler, the things like that? Okay. So making sure that you understand the styles, but also if you don't know what a blueprint looks like or a set of plans looks like, get familiar with what those look like, where you can find information, where do they put the square footage, how do they determine square footage, so that you can again help advise your clients when they're looking at this. They've never built before, they may never have seen a set of blueprints before, so you want to be the expert here and understand what's going on. The other thing that's the other piece of information you'll get from a builder, so you'll get the blueprint or the plan, and then you'll also get what's called the specs or a specification sheet. And what that spec sheet is that's where the builder is going to lay out everything that's going in the home, right? What type of furnace is going in? What type of piping is going in? What type of venting is going in? They're going to lay out the allowances that they've set aside in that price. So getting familiar with that and what you're looking at is really important, because as an agent, I like to review that spec sheet. That spec sheet is also kind of like the pricing contract for the builder. They'll lay out all the specs, and at the end, they generally list the price of here's what we'll build the house for, and then here's what the price is, right? So they'll put in all of their basics that they put in their, in the build, but then they'll also list all the allowances on that spec sheet, and then they give you that bottom dollar. So reviewing that spec sheet, hey guys, did you want a 90% efficient furnace or you want a 95% efficient furnace, right? Were you looking to add a Kinetico, water osmosis system? I don't know, we got to make sure that those things are in there, right? And you wanted Anderson windows versus Marvin windows. We want to make sure that the builder has on his spec sheet the things that your client is expecting, okay? And you want to review that. And then just navigating the design approval and modification process. Every builder can be very different, right? Some builders will like to have a lot of meetings up front, get all the information from the client, and then go to their draftsman, or their architect to do their first set of blueprints. Some builders will say, hey, let's look at a couple basic sets of blueprints that I already have. Let's tweak them. Now I'm going to send it off to the draftsman. I'm gonna come back with version 1. Let's further tweak it. So just learn the builder's process and what they need to get the full approval on the plan. And then if there's any changes, how do they like to have those changes done? Advising clients on layout and customization opportunities. So again, the more you guys work in this business or go look at model homes, if you're trying to break into new construction, the smarter you're going to get. Okay. I'll tell you, when I first started, I sat in on a lot of meetings. I asked the builder to, take me through the home and teach me how, things were built. But when you listen to builders talk, they have built a lot of homes, you guys. They have great recommendations, things that you wouldn't even think of. So a perfect example, I remember meeting a client and, we're talking about electrical and they're thinking about the house. The builder then says, hey, do you want any outside outlets for Christmas lights or things like that? And I was like, oh, I would have never thought to ask my client that, right? Or the client might not have never thought to ask that. So lean on that builder and say, hey, are there any other recommendations? You've built a lot of houses. Are there any other things that are pretty typical or things that people generally forget that might be hard to do later, right? Really lean on them. They are experts in their industry. And the more that you're involved in those meetings, the more you're going to remember things, and bring up options for people. Or, hey, someone might have thought this was a great idea, but you're going to hate it once it's built. I promise you, right? So, help guide them in that process, and really think about the room functionality and the flow of what your clients want. Like, hey guys, you told me you wanted to make sure that you had the nursery on the main floor, but this plan doesn't really have room for that, right? So we want to make sure we've got a second bedroom on that main floor. Or you want an office, how does that feel? Or oh, your pantry is across the hall and in the back mudroom. Is that really going to work for you since you cook a lot, right? So those are the questions that when you're looking at the plan and you're talking about design, that you're going to play a good part in helping your clients design the right flow and the right functionality. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is just discussing the potential for customization and personal touches. Sometimes people want to do some weird stuff to their house, and that's great because they love it and they're building what they want. But ultimately, unless they got more money than God and they don't care if they're getting their return on their resale, helping them understand that things that are unique are great as long as they're still somewhat mainstream when it comes time for resale. If you're building something super unique, that's great for you, but you're just not going to get your money back. And it might actually hurt you when it comes time to sell that home. Okay. Then there's the whole part of, we do have buyers that love that green, right? We want to be eco-friendly and sustainable features in our home. Maybe doing some research on what are those options that can be built into the home. You can highlight the benefits of some of those energy efficient appliances and systems. You can discuss with them green building certifications and eco-friendly design options. There are builders that tout that, and if your client's really big on that, you want to search out a builder that really highlights those features. I mean, we're seeing now, going back to solar panels in homes and putting them on roof lines again. And so that's going to become more and more a hot topic. So you need to find out the builders that are doing that. Navigating the design review and approval process. So you're assisting your clients in making those design decisions and keeping, within their budget. Sometimes, they might want the quartz countertops, or I'll say Cambria, and I love Cambria, so this isn't a slam, but they are very expensive, right? They're top of the line, but there's reasons why they're top of the line. However, if it's outside of your buyer's budget, many times you can find very similar looking quartz countertops or very similar lights that look like the $1,000 chandelier. Maybe you can find similar items online or in different vendors, right? So you're helping them try to stay within their budget. And again, just having the questions, what do you really need? Do you really need that in your house? If it's going to cost you an extra $1,000, can you live without it or can you add it later? Okay. And then coordinating with the builders and the design professionals to just ensure compliance, right? Somebody might want to do something on their property or in their house, but we need to make sure, does it comply with the neighborhood covenants that they're building in and or city or township ordinances? So you don't want to get all the way down the road and we find out, whoops, can't have that shed in the back or can't have those solar panels on the roof because they don't comply with your neighborhood covenants. So again, doing the paperwork, which I will get into a little bit here in just a minute, making sure that you've got contingencies in place for your buyer to, once they know what they want to build, it's contingent on us making sure that it's approved by the, city or the township or the neighborhood. Okay. And that's that kind of that final straw of approval before anybody digs a hole in the ground. So this is the other part I think that is super important, and where we can come in and bring some expertise, is the financial guidance and funding options for your buyer when they're doing their build. So you need to educate them on budgeting and new construction projects. So you're explaining the components of construction, especially when it comes to like hard costs and soft costs, right? When you build a home, there's hard costs that are non-negotiable with that builder, right? They're the fixed costs, the framing, the roofing, the whatever. And then there's the soft costs, right? So the things that you get to have choices on that you can, make sure that you either, you can spend what they put in there, or maybe you can spend a little less and save a little bit of money, right? So again, those hard costs, non-negotiables, soft costs, you've got some say in. Assisting clients again with that, setting that realistic budget. Will they be selling a home before they build or move in? Are you working with a builder who will start the process before their home is sold? Some of those things are, can really factor into the timing and the financing of this project, right? How much equity will they have if they're selling a house to put towards this new one? That can be a big factor. And then preparing clients for potential budget overruns and contingency planning. So again, I know I've said this 2 or 3 times, and it'll probably be 5 by the time we're done with this, really talking about the fact that if they're super budget conscious, making sure they're aware of, the potential pitfalls through this process of maybe overspending. Okay. So exploring the financing options and construction loans for your client. So every builder is going to be different, at least in our area. So I don't know in other areas of the country, but we have some builders here in our area that will carry the construction loan. And so then, the builder or the buyer is just letting the builder do their process all the way through. And then when the house is done, then their financing kicks in for that permanent loan and, the end product. Some builders will require the buyer to carry the construction loan. So the buyer has to go in then and get approved for the to be built project, right? Which means, there's a little bit more upfront work for the buyer to get pre-approved, get their plans done, kind of have everything set, have the property appraised as a, what's it going to appraise once it's built per these plans and per these specs, and getting that approval done ahead of time. Most lenders now do what's called a one-time close. Okay. So if your buyer is carrying the construction loan, what they're doing is they're going into the lender, they're providing all of the information up front. So the plan has to be set, the specs have to be set, not that you can't make minor changes later, but the majority of your plans and specs have to be set. They order an appraisal, the appraiser goes out and says, yep, if this house is built per the plan and per the specs on this lot, here's what the projected value will be. And then the lender will close even before the house is built. They do that initial close on the construction loan. And the construction loan is basically a line of credit. So that line of credit will be in place where the buyer then is paying interest only on what's been drawn off that line of credit. So what I mean by that is we close, and generally the first draw off that line of credit is going to buy the lot, right? Unless they already own the land. Maybe they've purchased it before, or it's family acreage or something like that. That first draw is going to go to secure the land. So at the end of that first month, if nothing more has been done to that land, the buyer's only buying or paying interest only on the cost of that lot or that land. Okay. Now the builder continues down the process, and now they got the excavators in there digging out the basement or putting the slab on grade there, so that they can start to build the house. Well, once that excavator is done, they submit their bill, and that line of credit goes, they take a draw off that line of credit to pay the excavator. Right now, next month, the buyer's paying interest only on the lot and the excavation costs, right? So every time a vendor or a contractor comes in to do their piece of work in this process, a draw gets taken off that construction loan to pay that contractor. So again, it's just a line of credit to pay the vendors and the contractors as we go through the process. And then when the home is done, the lender doesn't have to do a second close. They just do what's called a modification, so that if there were any changes to the amount, the buyer made any changes, add anything or overages or underages, whatever, they just do a final modification, and then your permanent loan is in place. So that way you're not paying two sets of closing costs, one on the construction loan and then one on your closing for your permanent loan. That modification just happens at the end. Okay. And I know you guys might have questions. Feel free to reach out to me. I know it's a very in-depth process, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions. But just understanding, what that means to the buyer so that they understand the process when they have to get their own construction loan, and the appraisal process. This is one thing. There's no guarantee that the builder says, I'm building you a house for $600,000, that the appraiser is going to come in and appraise it at $600,000. So, there have been issues in the past that now what do we do, right? We've got an appraisal that doesn't come in, but the hard cost for that builder, we're 600,000, but the appraisal didn't come in. Now this is really where you're needed, right? Because we need to go back to the builder here and talk about, what do we do? Do we renegotiate the price? Does the buyer just pay the difference because the builder's not gonna take less, right? So those conversations need to be had probably more so before we start the process, before we get to the end. Okay. And then just collaborating with mortgage professionals to secure the appropriate financing for your buyer. So there's lots of lenders that don't do construction loans. There are some that have better rates and better terms. So get to know your mortgage professionals that really do a great construction loan. If this is a niche that you want to go down. Okay, negotiating contracts, warranties, pricing structures. What you have to know is some builders use their own contract. And if they don't, then you want to use a new construction contract. So in Minnesota, we have a new construction purchase agreement. And the reason we want to use that is that new construction purchase agreement has proper verbiage when you're talking about building or the to be built structure. It also lists out the statutory warranties that we have in Minnesota. So Joe, I don't know what you guys have out, by you. I'm assuming you probably have some statutory warranties that are in place for builders when they build. So you want that verbiage in there. Also, you're reviewing the contract terms, the payment schedules, and that warranty coverage, with your buyer so that they're informed, they understand what they're looking at. You want to find out in the contract, how will changes be addressed? Generally a builder will do what's called a change order. So we've already signed the contract and now we're a month into it and your buyer decides they want to add, a few more outlets or they want to add a heater in their garage, which is very common up here in Minnesota. How are they going to handle that change? So most builders will do what's called a change order. They'll fill out what the addition or the deletion was. They'll put the cost, and then now we have a new price for the total package of the home, right? How do they want those addressed? Will they ask for that payment right then and there at the time we make the change order? Are they okay with it just being added to the modification at the end of the closing, right? Or the total package at the end of closing. So you want to know those types of things. You want to find out if we do make a change and if it's fairly substantial. So let's say your buyer originally was not going to finish their lower level. Here we have basements. Some climates don't have basements, but here you can build a home and have an unfinished basement. Now your buyer 2 months into it says, you know what, I've decided I just want it all done. I don't want to deal with the mess and do it later. We want to add the basement. Well, that's a significant change to the price point. That might add $50,000 to $75,000 to the price point. Is the builder now going to require an additional deposit down, right? Because the financing was set for only this amount. Now we're adding a significant additional amount. Do they want your buyer to give additional deposit? So those are just questions that you're going to want to chat with the builder about. How do they handle those change orders? The other thing I want to just talk about is statutory warranties. Now, this might only apply to Minnesota. So sorry, Joe, or anybody else. I have a Zoom user here. I don't know where you are from. So we have a 1 year, a 2 year, and a 10 year. And our 1-year statutory warranty is more like cosmetics. So you might have some nail pops, you might have some settling cracks after you've been there 1 year. The builder generally comes back 1 year later and will fix all of those things all at once, just the general cosmetic stuff. We have a 2-year warranty on all of our mechanical systems. So your plumbing, your heating, your AC, whatever, your lighting, electrical. We have that 2-year mechanical warranty. If something is not done, wasn't done right, the workmanship, that warranty is in place. And then we have a 10-year, mostly on our structural, right? Is there issues with our structure, our foundation, due to poor workmanship? Okay. So if you're, whatever state you're in, understand those statutory warranties, know where to send your client for further reading on those so that they get a really good understanding of what that is. And the builder should also be providing that information to the buyers as well. Okay. And then obviously you're there to negotiate favorable terms on behalf of your client. You don't want the, builder to necessarily run the show in regards to that. And then navigating the whole journey once they start building, right? You want to provide regular communication to with the builders on where you're at in the process, you guys. Are there any delays in the timeline that you're foreseeing? If an issue comes up, so for instance, hey, the builder calls you and says, hey, your buyer wanted this. We can't get that anymore. It's out of stock. It'll be a 6-month delay before we could get it. Do they want, I can find something similar, right? So just being in good communication with the builder throughout the process so you can address those issues right away, and be on top of it so that your clients are really happy with the communication through the process. And just having a really good understanding of the construction phases, right? So you can explain to your buyer, hey, it feels like nothing's happening, but they're doing work. I promise you. You saw the basement go in, you saw the framing happening, you saw the roof, and now you see nothing, right? And that's because they're doing little wiring inside and they're putting venting inside. It doesn't feel like anything's happened in 6 months. But if you can understand maybe the phases of construction and you can help convey that to your buyer, they're going to feel at ease that yes, things are still being worked on, right? And then, ask the builder, I think I mentioned this earlier, ask the builder about helping you understand. If you're just getting into this and you don't have any buyers yet, connect with a couple builders, have them walk you through their model, have them teach you a little bit about the process. Have your questions that you need to ask them. I mean, that's your chance to really learn and build relationships with builders, right? So again, every builder does things a little bit differently. So if there's a builder in your town that you'd really love to get connected to, reach out, see if you can meet them on a job site and take 15-20 minutes of their time, half an hour, and just ask some questions and build some relationships so that you learn more. You can also take classes on new construction, right? Do like these types of Zoom calls, but they also, there's continuing ed that's geared completely around new construction. So there's also builder associations in your area. We have the Rochester area builders. They do classes and they have meetings once a month where you're all around these builders. So get connected in that niche if that's where you want to be. And then again, you're back to assisting and monitoring the construction process. You should be doing site visits on the project regularly. Thankfully, Bruce and I have built many houses. We do a lot when we're building our own. We are there almost every day. And I know that sounds ridiculous and you don't have to do that as an agent for your buyer. But we've caught things that, well, that's not right. That was supposed to be an arched doorway and you don't have an arch in there, right? So you being there on a regular basis, you know what they're supposed to be building. You were involved in all those conversations. Things are going to jump out at you that don't look right. So, and I love this too. This was another great thing. You might have a client that's out of the area. They're moving here, they're not here yet, but they're building a house, or they work all the time. They can't stop out there on a regular basis. Stop on out, send a little video, go, hey, look at that. They got the roof on today. It's looking great. Oh my gosh, all your neighbors are envious. I see them staring at the house as it's going up, right? Send them a little video. They're going to be excited and happy to see that. And this should be a really fun thing for them. And so you want to keep it fun and exciting. And just provide them with key, updates on key Developments and stages of the project. Hey, they're going to be framing next week, or hey, they're going to be putting the windows in next week. Just so that they're aware of what's going on. It also helps everybody know if the timeline is being met. So if you're stopping out there and you're having conversations with, the job supervisor or the builder, and they're saying, yeah, we just got notification that, our painter got called back on another job, it's going to be delayed for 2 weeks. You can then convey that to your client. Hey, just so you know, painting's going to be pushed back, which then will push back a few other people. So, we're kind of getting a little bit further down in our timeline, right? And you being the person who's on top of that, again, you're going to come across as the expert and the person who's really holding this all together. And also just monitoring the expenses. Where are we at? Hey, Mr. Builder, where are we at? Are we online? How did that tile bid come in? Were we on track for our flooring allowance? And just throughout the process versus waiting to the end and all of a sudden they get this thing where, what do you mean we're $15,000 over budget, right? If you're on top of that through the process, everybody's going to be on the same page by the time we get to the end of it, and you'll have happy people, right? And if certainly we're getting to a point where expenses are getting high, you being there to help maybe recommend some cost-effective alternatives or solutions, to keep everybody happy. Addressing common challenges and changes. Things are going to happen, you guys. I don't know a construction project that didn't have an issue. They could be something small and very easy to get over, but they could be something very large. So, just making sure that we're discussing those potential setbacks and how to manage them. The things happen, what are the options for your client? And then going back to have that conversation with your client, advising them on their options, making them informed on the pros and cons of their decisions, and then responding back to the builder in a timely manner, right? If an issue is coming up, the builder needs to know what to do ASAP so that it doesn't, again, hold up the process. So having timely discussions so that you can get back to the builder with what to do and keeping them in line. And then again, just making sure that quality and compliance and safety is being met. When you're out on the sites, is everybody, protected when your clients are out there? Make sure that if the builder's requiring hard hats, blah, 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 that they're doing all of that. And then verifying that, codes are being met. Generally through the building process, there's times when the city or the county inspectors are in there doing they're checking every phase. So just make sure that that's happening. Did we get the electrical sign off? Did we get the HVAC sign off? And at the end, you get what's called a certificate of occupancy, right? And that means that inspector has come back and verified that we're good to go. And he's issued a certificate of occupancy for your buyers to be able to move in. Okay. Marketing and selling. So now there's some things that you need to know if you're going to be marketing and selling new construction. So you want to develop, a marketing strategy that's tailored towards new construction. So you want to identify that demographic, right? That target buyer demographic, and you want to tailor some of your marketing or your marketing materials to showcase like the features and the benefits of new construction properties, right? So you want to collaborate with builders to highlight their design elements and finishes that they're known for or that they're proud of in that house. And you want to really create some compelling visual content, maybe including virtual tours and 3D renderings of things that the house isn't done yet. There are companies out there that do some really awesome 3D renderings, that look very realistic so that people can visualize what this house is going to look like, before it's even built. Definitely, you want professional photos. If you're working with a builder on a model home, we want professional photographs. We want virtual tours to go through. That's going to make people want to get out there and see it. And I would highly even recommend staging these homes. Homes are beautiful when they're built, but they're empty, right? And when you see, HGTV and you see these beautiful homes decorated, they're just like, wow, the wow factor is there. And if you're going to be marketing, those are the things that you want to do. And you want to engage those potential buyers and investors through good communication and marketing, right? So you're going to want to host open houses in those model homes. You might want to do model home tours with other agents and get them out there to to expose them to the home that you're representing for the builder. And virtual property showcases, again, those 3D tours. You're going to want to leverage your social media and online platforms so that you can reach, you know, wider audiences. You may want to build a separate website or have a page on your website dedicated to these model homes or to this builder that you're, you know, working for or representing. You know, and obviously do that through social media as well as utilizing our traditional methods, right? The print materials need to be really good. Attend local events. Maybe you get a booth at your home show or your spring showcase or your fall showcase. You know, chat with the builder that you're working with. Do they generally get involved in those things? And if not, maybe they want to, right? Because you then are exposing, you get to get out there and you're getting exposed and meeting people and potential leads, but you're also showcasing the builder and the quality of work that they do. They'll sometimes help offset costs or pay for the whole cost too. So that's kind of nice. So there you go. So that's a lot of information piled in one. Any specific questions that you guys have on, you know, new construction that I didn't tap on or that I blew through really fast?
Just a real quick thing that this will be recorded, so you can find it under the features tab on the Empire Facebook page. I know that we got started late and Kelly blew through a lot of super good information. If you were taking notes, you missed some stuff, go back and watch a recording and take a look at that.
And Bruce, will you put my phone number and email in there too? Feel free to reach out to me, you guys. I have been, like I said, I've been doing new construction for almost 20 years now. So you know, if you have specific questions or you find that you have a client that is now wanting to build and you just have no clue where to even get started or how to start advising them, just feel free to reach out to me. I am happy to walk you through it and you know, maybe even give you questions to ask the builder or ask builders in general when you're interviewing builders, right? That's one more thing I would tell you is if you want to get into that niche, definitely start looking at who are the top 2 or 3 builders in, you know, this price point. And then if you jump up to the next price point, who are the top 2 or 3 builders there? And then keep, you know, kind of build your niche of recommended builders in various price points, because you're going to have clients, you know, in all different budget points. So you're going to want to know who to recommend them to when they come to you and say, we want to build, but we don't know any builders, right? And then you're going to want to make the phone call to connect the builder with that buyer so that they know you are involved, right? We don't want to get cut out. Nothing against builders, but a lot of times if they get a call directly with the buyer, they're going to tell the buyer, you don't need a real estate agent. I can do everything that they can do, you know, and, you know, they're putting more money on their bottom line, right? That's more profit to them. But a lot of these builders really are happy to work with agents. And sometimes they'll pay us, you know, in our area, typical might be 3%, but there's builders that might pay 4 and 5% if you bring them a deal and they don't have to market a house and they get it direct, you know, a pre-sold. So just network with those builders, find out how they work, find out the ones you really like. And, you know, you'll build a really good business fairly quickly just by, you know, opening up that whole new niche to you. Okay.
See, we don't have the small builders here. All ours are
national.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe if there's a small builder, he's building 2 houses.
Okay.
And the guy who did, they weren't that great.
Yeah.
They put things in it, like instead of putting the electrical box in the washroom, they put it in the hallway. I mean,
Oh.
and it's $1 million house. They were asking 1.1 million. I mean,
Yeah.
you get the picture there now. You know.
Yeah. Well, and that's why it's so important to ask questions and, you know, give us some referrals of who you built for. I mean, you might only build a couple houses a year, but they might be awesome or they might not be, right? But I know those national builders, a lot of them have people that already, they're employees, right? They work for them. But some of them do hire local agents, you know, to be a rep for them in that area.
I went to the open house on this retirement one. Yeah. They invited all the agents.
Yeah. And so again,
they're all that way. They're all paying them out here now. There was a couple that weren't.
Okay.
Shea Homes was not. And somebody got on. They says, no, we don't need you. Well, when things took the downturn, now they, what's pushing their sales is they're at 5.5 interest,
Right, right.
5.49, on new homes.
Yeah. Well, and that's okay. I mean, that's great, right? You bring a buyer, you're getting a nice paycheck, but again, don't be driven by the commission. Make sure it's the right builder for your client.
Yeah.
But in those national situations, Joe, what I would say is really get to know the builders of those national builders that you like, really get to know those people who work in the office, because they do a great job. If they're good, they do a great job pretty much helping your client walk through the whole process and making their selections and whatnot. And if you're along for those meetings, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn the lingo, you're going to learn the questions to ask, just in case you end up being with a builder that doesn't have, that showroom or those pre-selection options. So awesome. Well, Bruce, I know you got to cut out here. You have another appointment, so I'll let you go. But if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them and stay on here. Anybody else?
See you guys. Thanks, Joe, for attending.
No problem. I know where to find you.
Awesome.
Yes,
Well,
you
good.
do, my friend.
Well, good, you guys. If you need anything else after this, please let me know. Reach out. Otherwise, I appreciate you spending your Wednesday morning with me or Bruce and I, and always happy to help you guys in any way that we can.
Okay.
I actually have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Who
is this?
This is Mercedes.
Oh, Mercedes. You just show up as Zoom user. Sorry, honey. I don't see your name. So.
Oh, no, it's okay. I wanted to ask, what is the name of that paper that the contractor has to sign when you bring in a buyer? What is the name of the form?
So do you mean like if they come you mean like a spec sheet or a specification sheet?
No. Okay. So let's say there's a new construction and there's a buyer that wants to buy it. There is a form that the contractor has that you sign that you're bringing in a buyer.
Oh, so a lot of times and this actually happens more in the Twin Cities area. We don't have a ton of it down here in our area.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but a lot of times they'll have a sign-in sheet. If your buyer is coming out to look at a model home, you want to be with them, right? Because you want to register your buyer with that builder. So that way, if the buyer then reaches out to the builder directly you're on record as being the buyer's rep, right? Or the person that works with them. But that's why it's so important. A lot of the builders down in our area, they don't have that. So it's really important for you to say, hey, let me set up a meeting with the builder, so that we can get together and you can ask your questions, right? Or if let's say you meet a buyer and they're like, yeah, I've heard really great things, or I want to build with XYZ builders. And I would say, oh, have you reached out to them yet? If they say no, say, okay, great, not a problem. How about we set up a meeting and we can at least just discuss, or you can ask the questions of the builder, and then I'll be the one to go make the call to the builder, because I want the builder to know I'm involved and I'm bringing that buyer to you, right? Because otherwise, again, I don't want them to try to cut me out. And I'm not saying that they will intentionally do that. But there are some that do, right? So you want to make sure that you're not getting cut out of the deal. Part of that conversation with your buyer is also that, yes, you could call any builder you want, but I believe it's in your best interest that you have me involved through this process, and you have to sell your value proposition. And for me, I can say, this has been my whole career is new construction, right? I have been in new construction for 20 years. I have worked with the third largest builder in the state. I'm going to know the questions to ask. I'm going to know what to look for on that blueprint and that spec sheet. And I'm going to help make sure that the terms of this contract are also in favor of you, not just the builder, right? You need to sell your value proposition. I also, in my repertoire, I have a couple clients that they bought a home from me that was a resale. They later wanted to build. They went directly to the builder. They had a horrible experience. It was bad. And so I keep those people, I say, do you mind if I ever need to use you as a referral for why you want to have your agent there through the build process? They're like, absolutely. So I always say, hey, I've got someone who thought they could do this on their own. Can I give you their phone number? Call them. They'll tell you how horrible it was to not have their own representation throughout this process, right? And so having kind of those things in your back pocket really helps build value for why you want to be part of that process. So I would definitely say you want to be the instigator of the call to the builder or be there during those meetings. If let's say your buyer has already set up a meeting, they're like, yeah, I'm meeting with, Bob Builder, on next week, Thursday. I say, I would like to be there. Is it okay that I'm there? Because I'm going to know some questions you're not even thinking to ask. I'd like to take notes to make sure that we're all on the same page. And they're, most of them aren't going to go, no, no, I don't want you there. So most of them are like, yeah, that'd be great. And then you show up, the builder sees that you're there. You introduce yourself as, hey, I'm, Kelly with eXp Realty, and I'm representing these guys, and we're really excited to build or talk to you about building, right? You want to be very positive, but you want to be a part of that process. Okay.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's up in the cities where they have that form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid of that. Just you want to make sure that you're getting in there and registering your buyer. Or if you can't be there, for us, the cities isn't that far away, right? So our builders might, hey, I'm going up to the Parade of Homes, or I'm going to go look at this model home, just for ideas or whatever. I would be calling that builder and saying, hey, I've got a buyer coming up. I can't be with them. I'd like to register them, so you can have that on record.
Yeah, and the contracts are different too. Everybody has different contracts. The builders have different contracts sometimes that they have their own.
Yep.
So sometimes we have both. I even convinced a contractor to use the Minnesota contract because he had like two states, Wisconsin and Minnesota, and it was not clear at all. And I was just like, and he was okay with it. So finally with the agent too, he had an agent that was representing him to the builder. Yep. And so we all were on the same page, but that was
and I think that's important, right? Like, cause you said one builder can be very different from the next. So, you being there, you understand contract verbiage, for the most part. You might not necessarily be well-versed in new construction if you're just getting started in this, but you're going to have a better idea of what you're reading and what to look for and what questions to ask. But, just knowing, do you have your own contract, or are you okay that we use the Minnesota, or the state new construction form, right? Understanding the way that builder works and you being kind of the glue between the two parties is super important.
Right. I have a new construction right now going on, but it's been a year now since we've been working on this.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a long time.
I know, it's been a long time. It's just like either the buyer installs or then the contractor stalls, so everybody just stalling during the process. But it's been going now. So hopefully, I think now they're building the house. So I think it should be moving quickly. Faster than before.
Good. Awesome. Well, good. Any other questions that you have?
No, I'm working also on, since the buyers bought the lot, I've been having to help them with having to sign up with utilities and all that process. And I got to work with the builder doing that. Like, oh my God, it's a lot of work.
It is definitely a learning curve, especially if they've already owned the property first, right? It's not kind of like a combination all in the project. So yeah, that's a learning curve as well. Just knowing, sometimes we have to quit claim the property over to the builder to improve it. Right. And then, so there's, different areas require different things. So just asking the questions and knowing how the process works, deal with the lenders, right? Ask them the question. My client already owns the lot. Builders coming in, or they own the land, the builders coming in, what do we need to do to make sure that this is all cohesive, as we go through the process. So yeah.
Right.
Well, good. Well, if you have any more questions, Mercedes, feel free to reach out. It sounds like, you got a good handle on it, but if there's, anything else unique that comes up in that situation, let me know. I'm happy to help.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. You guys will have a great rest of your day and we'll see you. Oh, and next week I won't be here. So we won't have a mastermind and I will post that on the Facebook page. I'm going to be out of the country for a week. So I'm not sure about internet service or anything. So I'm not even going to take the chance and we'll just do it again the following week on the 23rd. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.